Mike DeWine and Mary Taylor got as close as they likely will come to a debate this week. They sat down together with the Plain Dealer editorial board. It was a fairly civil affair, no name calling, no chance of lock her up as they made their pitch to conservative voters.
As I'm traveling again and talking to, at least in this case, Republican primary voters, they're looking for a true conservative who not only campaigns and says they're a conservative, but when they govern and when they're asked to make important decisions, is somebody that is willing to stand up for those conservative values.
Could I just say something about this? This is about the 8th time she's talked about that the Lieutenant Governor says she's the true conservative in this race. And I would just say to primary voters who are watching this, one of us has been a conservative who's done things. The other has been a conservative who has, if like she says she's a conservative, who has not really done things.
Andy Cello, that was about as fiery as it got. It was, for all the nastiness in this campaign, it was a pretty low-key affair.
He seemed like he really wanted to unload, and then he just kind of held back a little bit there. I mean, that kind of echoes one of the commercials that's come out from DeWine's Super PAC. I think the thing that we saw in that editorial board meeting was that Mary Taylor did a good job at laying out the issues and how she would approach those issues, the tactics she would take in addressing those things. And DeWine kind of took the 500-foot view of it, but not really nailing down what he would do on one issue or another. And I think that kind of proves why they might not want to get into a debate. He doesn't want to get into these things right now. And that's why I think Mary Taylor's been trying to get a debate, because it would be interesting to hear those two really go at it on specific issues.
So, Mike, who is the real conservative, Mary Taylor or Mike DeWine?
Well, I think Mike DeWine has the proven track record of conservative principles, beliefs, and results. I'm not saying Mary's liberal, of course. I'm not saying that. No one should, or nor could they. But Mary's been a bomb thrower at best during this campaign because she's starving for media attention. And she knows the only way she's going to be able to try to make up a 30-point deficit, which she has right now, is to do some outlandish things. I mean, she's trashed the Ohio Republican Party. She's trashed Ohio Right to Life. Anyone that endorses Mike DeWine gets trashed by Mary Taylor. It's unfortunate and sad, but at the end of the day, Mike DeWine will be the nominee of the Republican Party.
I think that the question isn't whether Mike DeWine is going to win the primary. He almost certainly will. The question is whether Mary Taylor is going to push him, how far Mary Taylor can push him into Trump's corner, and whether Mike DeWine will be able to separate himself enough from Trump in the general election to overcome, to not have his current lead that he's got in the polls overcome by the big blue wave that is building not just in Ohio but all over the nation.
Jackie, and DeWine successfully did that in this session, and he did not attend Donald Trump's rally a week or so ago in Cleveland. He's kind of, not giving him the stiff arm, but basically ignoring Donald Trump and the noise that goes along with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's having to toe a pretty thin line there because, Mary Taylor has very forcefully aligned herself with Donald Trump. And, the DeWine Husted campaign, we have to include, John Husted in this as well. He has appeared at some of those events, to be fair. And I think that this editorial board meeting was really great because it kind of cleared some of that, who's with Trump, who's not, because does that really matter at the end of the day? To some voters, it probably does, but I think people are more interested on the actual candidate and what they stand for. And it is unfortunate, I think, for Republican voters that they're not going to get to see Mary and Mike next to each other debating the issues ever. This was it, really. And I think it showed that debates are important when you're considering who to vote for, because it is an opportunity for candidates to defend themselves and also pitch their ideas for what they want to do when they're in office.
Mike, some far-right conservatives and Republicans in Ohio have always been a little skeptical about Mike DeWine. He compromised with Democrats when he was in the Senate, and you see the signs out there as you drive out. You used to see signs as you drove out to west on the 70. Will Donald Trump supporters vote for Mike DeWine with enthusiasm?
I think so. I believe so. When you look at the alternative, Dennis Kucinich or Richard Cordray, whoever wins there, or Mike DeWine, I think the decision's easy if you're a conservative or a Donald Trump supporter at the end of the day, because John Husted brings a lot to the ticket, too, that could help fill some gaps that Mike may have with Donald Trump supporters. But I think the key is even Bob Paduchik, the number 2 at the RNC, has come out and strongly supported and signaled to Trump supporters in Ohio that DeWine is our guy. Let's get behind him and let's support him to win.
Mike DeWine is buying $1 million worth of TV ads, Dale. It's a positive ad. It's narrated by his wife, very different from the negative ads that he was out with a couple weeks ago. Why is he spending $1 million now if he has a 30-point lead?
because he wants to win big, and he doesn't want to take a chance on having that lead narrowed. Frankly, I don't think he's in any great danger. But this is not a bad time. I mean, Mike DeWine, it's not a bad time for him to start giving people positive reasons to vote for him. So I think that this is aimed as much toward the general in the fall as it is the primary. He's going to win the primary. And
Yeah, I think this is trying to get that last wave into the primary to carry him into the general. So more of a positive message to kind of boost the numbers and then right into the general with more momentum. The question you ask about getting Donald Trump supporters, I think the interesting thing is I don't think he's going to be out there trying to get Donald Trump supporters, and I wonder if that's going to sort of muffle the support in November.
All comes down to President Trump and how enthusiastic Republicans are to vote at all. So turnout, turnout, turnout.